Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday service of Now Creations. It's always a joy to remind you that the most important energy of life, your life force, is always that God Spirit at the very center of your being. May you feel that today and every day, to know that there is a presence within you that bolsters you, supports you, encourages you, and especially invites you to share your goodness with others, the one universal God Spirit. Also want to remind you that this week you'll be receiving in the mail a packet from Now Creations with a book and other material for Kindness Month. April, Kindness Month, it's a big deal for Now Creations. It's our 5th celebration of Kindness Month on an annual basis. Just kind of gives us that encouragement to move a little bit more into that fuller spirit that the world is so much in need of today. Those of you who are able, I certainly invite you to join us tonight for What is Light Body from 7 to 8:30. Let's begin. My dear friends, one of the topics I never get tired of speaking about is you. I love to look at each one of you. I love to look at each one of you. I love to see each other in you and to see myself in each one of us. We are indeed marvelous creations of our loving God. And what a joy it is to speak to our power, our love, our joy, our happiness. In the last 2 Sundays' teachings, we have done precisely this. We have spoken directly to you, us, being a spiritual friend to all of creation, and especially about a satisfaction that such a life affords us when we are receptive to it. In today's teaching, I again want to address you specifically in the area of becoming a spiritual master. Oh yes, I know that you might initially balk at such a notion of you becoming a spiritual master, but as I often remind the participants in our study groups, you know a lot more than you think you do. Thus, as we pursue this notion of being a spiritual master, I will begin with an observation that really surprised me and then actually really got me to thinking about us becoming spiritual masters, and then address the basis of such a teaching of being a spiritual master, and lastly, proceed to talk to you about the practical things, the 2 basic things that lead to self-mastery. The title of today's teaching is From Now On. Let me begin with an observation that just surprised me. Recently, I was reading a book suggested by one of our members. The book was My Cup of Tea. It was a teaching about how we can be set free to live life much more authentically. Again, a book right up my alley. As I began reading the book, I noticed that there was a section on the Ascended Masters. An Ascended Master, as you know, is one who has lived an earthly life and has ascended to the spiritual realms, yet continues to be quite interested and connected with the human condition. In fact, the Ascended Masters are quite solicitous for humanity and can be counted on for their spiritual assistance. So far, nothing new in that book. Then the book gave a partial list of Ascended Masters: Jesus, the Buddha, Kuthumi, Saint Germain, Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene, and Hilarion. Again, nothing new. This was a standard list of Ascended Masters that one might expect. Until it came to the last member on the Ascended Master list. Now, before I mention this last name on the Ascended Master list, let me make a slight digression. I presume that all of you have either visited Disneyland in Anaheim, California, or Disney World in Orlando, Florida, or at the very least, you know children, family, and friends who have been there. And of course, when visiting either of these two places, you can't help but be overwhelmed at times by the magical atmosphere that such a place creates for us. Especially, you are enthralled by the big parade, usually led by Mickey and Minnie Mouse. I especially remember when I was out in California that I wanted to take a young friend of mine to Disneyland, and we had an opportunity of doing so. And when we got there, he insisted on getting a set of mouse ears to wear. And how we laughed when we saw the mouse ears, not just on little kids, but on parents and grandparents as well. Just a very, very interesting situation. And of course, attending a Disney park. It's just kind of like, it's not just going to another amusement park, but it's like truly living in a magical kingdom. Moreover, for the time that you're there, it feels right to you. Something within you kind of yearns for that magical spiritual kingdom. And of course, we'd like to live this way from now on. I think you might have guessed where I'm going with this digression to Disneyland and Disney World. Let's return then to the last name on the Ascended Master list. The last name on the Ascended Master list, you guessed it, was Walt Disney. Walt Disney. Of course, what really struck me was, well, why? Why was he considered to be an ascended master? This was the reason given. The mission of Walt Disney on Earth was to create an awareness, of the elementals and animals, and to integrate the existence of these kingdoms into human consciousness. Let me repeat that again. The mission of Walt Disney on Earth was to create an awareness of the elementals and animals, and to integrate the existence of these kingdoms into human consciousness. And I'll say it one more time. The mission of Walt Disney on Earth was to create an awareness of the elementals and animals, and to integrate the existence of these kingdoms into human consciousness. Many of us in our creations are acquainted with the elementals. They are the energies behind the elements of earth, air, fire, and water. Have you not heard of Tinkerbell in Disney's movie Peter Pan in 1953, and how the plants and the animals talk to each other? And not only that, in addition to the characters of Mickey and Minnie Mouse, what about Donald Duck, Daisy Duck, Goofy, and Pluto? And then the Little Mermaid, and of course, the Lion King. I suspect that most of us have been, in a sense, overwhelmed, just appreciative of what Walt Disney was able to accomplish, and to acknowledge him as an ascended master for what he did. What becomes extremely important for us then is to have a deeper understanding, that moves beyond simply Walt Disney and ascended masters in general. So let's just take a little bit of a deeper look into what they were about. What becomes extremely interesting for the ascended masters is, especially when you have someone like Jesus and the Buddha, you begin to think to yourself that, well, could I be an ascended master? Could I be an ascended master? Well, perhaps maybe you would not think that. But then again, just look what they did. Look what they did. Especially look at what Walt Disney did. Did he not integrate the elementals and the animals into human consciousness? I mean, who else? Who else but Walt Disney could get seemingly intelligent adults to wear mouse ears for a couple of days? Okay, I think you know where I'm going with this. If Walt Disney is considered to be an ascended master, why not you and me? Why not you and me? We just need someone to show us how to do so and to inspire us to do it from now on. As I suggested, we know more than we think. So let me now suggest to you the two paths of being an ascended master. These paths, although distinct, are quite complementary. One initial comment. These two pathways are not something outside of you that you need to find, as though they were buried treasures in a foreign land. Rather, these two pathways are already present within you. Do you think that Walt Disney looked outside of himself to understand the importance of the elementals and the animals? If anything, people thought that Walt Disney's dream was an unrealistic fantasy, and it probably was to everyone else except to Walt Disney. It was simply a means for him to respond to what he knew was true for him and what a response he made. This is what I hope for each one of us, that from now on, that each of you and myself will respond to these two inner pathways. From now on, that each one of us will live by what we know to be true. And that each one of us, in the process of doing this, you know what I'm going to say, is ready to become an ascended master. So let's begin with the first inner pathway on your way to becoming a master. The first pathway has to do not with your personality self, but with your soul self, the inner you, your best friend. Let me explain. The first thing in becoming an ascended master is to establish the structure of your life. Let me repeat this. The first thing in becoming an ascended master is to establish the structure of your life, at least from now on. The question arises, where do I find the structure of my life? Most people begin the search for such a structure outside of themselves. They look for a place to fit into. And of course, their family and friends will give them a lot of advice as to what they should do and how they should live in life. Do you think that this is what Walt Disney did? More to the point, do you think that this is what Jesus did? How many times in the New Testament would you read that Jesus went off to pray at night? What do you think he was praying for? What do you think Walt Disney was praying for? Their prayer was not to find their spiritual structures, but to fulfill it. To have the courage to meet the circumstances of their lives from the guidance of their souls that had been provided for them. This is what all the masters do. They first understand the guidance that their soul has instilled into their personality self and allow that inner guidance to become the structure of their lives. I'm going to repeat that again. This is what all the great masters do. They first understand the guidance that their soul has instilled into their personality self and allow that inner guidance to be the structure of their lives. We are rediscovering this principle in our contemporary times. Rather than looking outside of ourselves for things to fit into, we now have begun to look very clearly inside for the guidance that our soul already has for our personality self. This takes time to look inside, and it takes an initial amount of courage until you understand that your way has now been revealed to you from the inside, that your soul has given you the structure, the guidance for your life. Let me give you a clear example. Let's say that your soul has instilled in you, the desire to be the love of God in human form. This principle then becomes the defining principle of your life. You have now the spiritual structure of your life. What follows now then is that your guidance will then give you the energy for the continual expansion of that inner principle. Oh yes, there will be ups and downs that your personal self will have as you go through the mystery of life, in a sense, as Walt Disney and Jesus did. But the fire that blazed within you, lit by your soul, has now become the light of your life. Everything you do, everywhere you go, from your personality self, is now guided by your soul's desire to be the love of God in human form. In the words of Paramahansa Yogananda, you have become a portable altar. Wherever you are that love of God. And especially that wonderful teaching at the end of the Unity service, wherever I am, God is, and all is well. But do you see that this guidance is coming forth from within you? I want to be the love of God in human form. And it's not just what you want to be, more so, it is what you're meant to be as an ascended master. to simply be the love of God in human form from now on. And whether you express this love as Walt Disney did, or whether you do it as Jesus did, however you express that love, you begin to understand that whatever you do, as you listen to your soul, you know that you are on the right path. You don't have to do things like bringing the elementals and the animal kingdoms into human consciousness. You don't have to say things like, teach only love, for that is what you are. You just have to listen to your soul and allow it to guide you to become an ascended master. One last comment on this first path of mastery. Many people today, as I mentioned, continue to look outside of themselves for life's guidance, perhaps trying to emulate someone else. I encourage you to encourage others to look within and to keep looking within until they understand that their soul is guiding them, just like your soul is guiding you. May you have the courage to invite others to look within, certainly not trying to tell them what to do, but truly telling them where to look. This spiritual shift of understanding what your soul is guiding you to do is the first step in becoming an ascended master. See, you really do know more than you think. It's just a matter of listening. That from now on, that you're going to follow the guidance of your soul. And as you do so, you know that it'll be logical. You know that it will feel right. All you need to do is, well, put it into practice and see if it doesn't give you the joy you've always desired from now on. We are now ready for the second step in mastery. Actually, there are two parts to it, two principles to be followed. And in the explanation of these two principles, the movement to self-mastery will become very apparent. The first principle was presented in a twofold process by Jim Self in his wonderful book, A Course in Mastering Alchemy. Jim instructs us quite well in the steps of becoming a master. After presenting to us the tools of mastering oneself, he then presents two logical steps in going forward. And again, notice the logical progression. He states that the first step in mastering oneself is, well, you got to overcome your obstacles. And he mentions everything from disentangling yourself from unproductive relationships to not relying on others, but rather upon yourself and not reacting to external situations. And these are very, very important things to do for us. But it was the second step that really has proven most helpful to me. In this second step, he unequivocally states that the road to mastery demands that we master all of our thoughts, emotions, and actions. Because we have the tools to do so. Because we can. I love this chapter on mastering our thoughts, emotions, and actions for two reasons. The first one is that, well, we have to learn to do so, plain and simple. If we don't master our thoughts, emotions, and actions, we will lose focus. And the movement forward is always being focused on what your soul is guiding you to do. But secondly, we know more than we think we do. We know that we have the appropriate tools. We have the appropriate tools to manage self-mastery and to overcome the obstacles to it. Namely, we have 7 daily spiritual practices. These are the tools that launch us forward to fulfill the guidance of our soul. You know much more than you think you do. It's simply a matter of, well, putting that knowledge into practice and devoting more and more attention to that knowledge that will guide the direction of your soul. The second principle was presented in a wonderful book by U.S. Anderson entitled 3 Magic Words. Although the 3 magic words are truly magical, kind of like Disney's kingdom, namely that you are God, it was another aspect of the book that made a bigger impression on me. U.S. Anderson taught that anything you do in life, such as, well, becoming a master, seldom goes in a straight line from point A to point B. Rather than a straight line, there are times when you go above the line, when things are just clicking so well, they're just working out so well for you. But other times, you go below the line. Things are not going quite so well. A lot of difficulties, people get in the way. I have found this to be a true principle in life. I can certainly see how this principle was active in the life of Walt Disney. And I could see how practical it was in the life of Jesus. They too had challenges. Sometimes the people were with them. Sometimes, and more often than not, they were against him. But they focused. They moved on. And I have found that this is a way that is very operative in my life now. That as my challenges come to me, to overcome the obstacles, to deal with situations that need attended to, I know I have the tools to do so. Worrisome thoughts, fearful emotions, challenging personalities, oh yes, they can all get in the way. But we have the tools to move through them. What Anderson taught, and what I have found to be true, is the necessity of maintaining your focus, of your vision, so that life does not get in your way. This is still a problem for many on the spiritual path. We continue to allow life to get in our way. There's one more thing that is very, very, very important. Let me give a little principle and then a practice. The principle is, what is your soul guiding you to do? This is what the masters knew and did. But now the practice. Listen closely. While we honor the personality selves of the masters for their achievement. We honor Walt Disney and Jesus. What we really are honoring is the guidance of their souls that spurred their personality self to action and provided the tools for them to do so. Of course, we honor the personality self. The personality self of Walt Disney, Jesus, the Ascended Masters. But the most important thing we honor is what their souls have spurred their personality selves to achieve and have given to them the tools to achieve them. It's the same with you. Your soul has spoken to you as my soul has spoken to me. And your soul has not only given you the structure of going forward, but the tools of doing so. What simply remains to be done is for your personality self to say, you can count on me. I know the message, I have the tools, and I'm ready to proceed. You know more than you think you do. In conclusion, I encourage you to review today's teaching several times. It shows you the pathway forward to your ascended mastery. Indeed, we really do know a lot more than we think we do. We just need the encouragement to each other to rise up, to be masters of spirit that we are meant to be from now on. To rise up, to ascend into mastery. Let me now take you into meditation, and what a joy it is to do so. So refreshing. It was so refreshing. When I read that Ascended Master list, to see a contemporary. Walt Disney. And what he did remarkably well. Bringing the elementals, the energies behind earth, air, fire, and water, and the animal kingdoms into an awareness of human consciousness. He had the vision. That was his soul. His soul gave him the vision. His personality self had to respond. Same thing with Jesus. His soul had the vision. His personality self had to respond. Both the vision and the response for all of the ascended masters come from within. So from now on, from now on, regardless of how much of your life has been lived from the outside in, from now on, from now on, what's your vision? Take a moment, take a moment, and respond with an answer. I'll come back. What's your vision? Many of our externals are pretty well settled. But what is your vision now as you go forward? Now, don't just say the same old stuff. What is your vision? What do you really want to focus on from now on? And are you resolved? Are you resolved to do it? Not just today for 5 minutes, but this is what I really am going to do with my life from now on. And what becomes important is that the vision is coming from your soul. That your personality self has to consent. Or when perhaps right now you say, yes, this is exactly what I'm going to do. Your personality self is now informed. But it will realize that the movement from point A to point B is not always a straight line. There'll be moments like right now where you feel, well, there's no reason why I can't achieve this. And there isn't. Except maybe the moments when you don't feel quite so enthused. Or somebody says, that's not a very smart idea. The personality self has to agree with the vision of your personality self does the actual manifestation. We are resolved. We are resolved in now creations to assist each of our personality selves to respond to the vision of our souls. That is our basic goal in now creations. I can't tell you how many times my young friend and myself, we just chuckled at each other when we would see somebody with mouse ears, especially grandparents. It just seemed like, oh my gosh, that was just the coolest thing in the world. There was a magical feeling, something that felt right, just like your vision feels right to you. Let's go. Let's go. And in that magical energy, let me invite you back to your breath. Just that nice, easy breathing. And as you do so, you can't help but smile and gently breathing your eyes open. Just fun to be with all of you this morning. Fun to be in this wonderful energy of life. It is magical. I am an eternal being of light and love. Thus, only good can come to me, and only good can come from me. And we are eternal beings of light and love. Thus, only good can come to us, and only good can come from us. Namaste.